of Age by Paleowriter, Chapter 7. Rarity set a hoof down on the dark rock, doing her best to avoid the almost pokey-looking parts. It must be volcanic, she decided. This would explain why her crystal magic was tingling in her horn. Volcanic rock often contains gems, after all.
This place is so cool!
Sleebell hopped off Stefan's raft, trotting up next to her sister. I'm so pleased you approve! Stefan exclaimed, clapping his skinny hands together. He swam near the edge of the larger isle. Their arrival clearly attracted the attention of the other sea serpents, and Rarity took a protective step in front of her sister. 3 particularly large serpents swam up to the water's edge to get a closer look at them. Waves burst around the trio, making it seem like they were just rooted to the ocean floor, as the islands themselves were. The 3 serpents dwarfed Stefan, and Rarity realized, with a moment's panic, that she had no idea what sea serpents ate.
These be herbivores, or the very civilized carnivores.
Both her and her sister were now surrounded by the massive, swimming reptiles. Rarity took some comfort in remembering that all previous ambassadors had returned unscathed to Canterlot after failing in their own missions to talk to sea serpents.
So, this is the one?
One of the sea serpents asked, gesturing toward Rarity, his hair even poofier than Stefan's, if that could be imagined. Stefan nodded as lace blasted around him. Indeed! And we've had to work quite a hard journey to get here! Let me tell you!
I really like her mane!
Another sea serpent cooed, a female one, from what Rarity could tell.
How could you tell? They all act alike!
Even while in awe and, admittedly, a bit of fear of their size, Rarity had to admire the way the sea serpent scales shimmered in the sun. They could rival the crystal ponies for glossy shine.
Oh, yes! Look at that curl!
The third exclaimed, poking at Rarity's mane with one skinny blue finger.
How did you ever get such definition while retaining such bounce?
Rarity laughed nervously, still blocking her sister.
Why, thank you.
She carefully stepped just out of reach, to ensure her mane wouldn't get too fussed over it.
It's no difficulty, really. I rarely use product on my mane, and most of this is natural.
Sweetie Belle scoffed from behind her, and Rarity quickly changed subjects.
In any case, it is simply a pleasure to meet all of you, and to have the honor of visiting your esteemed ceremonial isles. My, who is this?
The sea blue serpent asked, leaning over Rarity. It seemed Sweetie Belle's snort of disbelief hadn't gone unnoticed.
Why, this is my sister, of course,
Rarity said, deftly throwing one hoof around Sweetie Belle in a conveniently binding hug. Sweetie Belle squeaked in protest.
She's in my care at the moment. She'll see hard to come along. I sincerely hope that won't be a problem. Oh, what a dear heart!
So precious!
She's a little angel.
Sweetie Belle grinned at Rarity, pulling out of her grip.
I think I'm safe,
she whispered slyly.
But thanks for the concern.
Rarity frowned slightly as her sister pranced forward. The sea serpents all bent down, resting their chins in their hands, and propping their elbows along the rocking shore as they oohed and awed at the filly. I swear, the image in my head is just too adorable. I'm going to die here.
Don't worry, she'll come to no harm here,
Stephen said, nosing Rarity's narrowing eyes. Rarity carefully masked her expression.
Oh, I wasn't worried.
She smiled up at her guide. The last thing she wanted to do was offend the Duke of Sea Serpentina before she was introduced at court.
It's quite alright,
Stephen said.
It's natural to feel nervous around larger creatures. I even feel that way myself at times.
Rarity did notice that Stefan really was the smallest of sea serpents around them, without an exception to be spotted. She wasn't sure how to go about asking why that was, without coming off as insensitive.
How about we show you two to your tables during the evening?
Stefan suggested.
That way, you both can get some privacy and rest before meeting the full Serpentina Court tomorrow morning.
The setting sun elongated the shadows of all sea serpents in the water, creating an interesting banding pattern along the rocky aisles. Rarity stood and sensed the band, with Stefan floating near her. In the shadow, the air felt cooler than it had in the midday sun, and Rarity looked forward to heading somewhere indoors.
That sounds like a wonderful idea,
Rarity agreed.
and perhaps before you leave us for the night, you may be so kind as to fill me in on some of the finer points of your culture and society.
Absolutely,
Stefan agreed.
follow me.
Isabel! Rarity called. We must be going now, dear. The Duke is showing us to our chambers.
Sweetbell waved goodbye to what quickly became a dejected-looking set of sea serpents.
Yang!
She called back, cantering quickly to catch up. Rarity turned away from the sun, following a trail through the rock near the water's edge, as Stefan swam alongside. Sweetbell was soon at her side once more, as she could breathe a small sigh of relief.
I like them, Mary.
Sweetbell exclaimed.
They're really cute, but really nice. That's lovely to know, sweetie.
Rarity said. She stepped over one of the many dark rocks that littered their pathway.
Just remember, we're here on delicate political business, and anything you say represents what any pony in all of Equestria might say.
Sweetbell interrupted.
I know. You told me enough times on my way here. Thank you, sweetie.
Rarity said. Stefan swam near them in silence, wisely staying out of their sisterly conversation. Rarity was grateful that their guide was so understanding.
Anyhow, as we were saying, Stefan.
She turned to face the purple sea serpent. A bit of ocean spray got on her face, but Rarity pressed on.
What is your cult like? I'm afraid we have limited knowledge of the inner workings of your fascinating culture over in Equestria.
Oh, we're a simple society, really.
The king, Stefan insisted.
Our queen, my great aunt, rules over all of us with great fairness. Court usually means having new mold, but we've been meeting much more frequently as of late. The striker crisis has us in a dizzy.
They rounded a bend, heading into a watery cave, with a golden arching entrance. Rarity gasped, staring up at it. The archway easily rivaled any of the arches in the Crystal Castle for beauty, and Rarity's horn tingled even more as they entered the cave. It was lined with gems of all kinds, laid out in gorgeous patterns along the wall. To stop herself from drooling, Rarity forced her head back to face Stefan.
And what is your role in court, if I may ask?
To her side, Sweetbell poked at one of the gem murals in the wall, and Rarity swatted the filly's hoof away.
As a young duke, my role isn't much of anything, to be honest,
Stefan admitted.
I'm meant to be out in the world, protecting our rivers and tributaries. All of my generation is meant for river guardianship, which is why you won't see many of my peers around here. But after those nasty gargoyles booted me out of the MMA forest, I was forced to come back to our meeting house. It's the only place I have now.
His big eyes began to bubble up with tears.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that,
Rarity said. She offered up a handkerchief from her saddlebag, which had finally just dried out. Stefan took the dainty cloth square between the two purple fingers and dabbed at his watery eyes, which reflected the torchlight throughout the golden cave. Rarity recognized the dramatics when she saw them, but also knew that dramatics weren't false emotion, as much as they were exaggerated emotion.
I can't imagine losing one's home to a bunch of vicious gargoyles,
Rarity said. The sea serpent put the back of his hand to his forehead.
And now the dragons want to take over our room too!
He wailed. Rarity blinked.
They do? Well, not your entire home, correct?
Rarity asked delicately, just in case she misunderstood the situation.
They are trying to take over the sea serpent breeding grounds, aren't they?
They might as well take over our entire home!
Stephen wiped his eyes some more. Rarity took her shovels back to being soaked.
I really should have bought spares,
She grimaced inwardly.
Without breeding grounds, where will our ladies lay their eggs come summertime? No eggs means no coochie-woochie baby serpents, and no coochie-woochie baby serpents means no new families, and no family Please! No!
Stephen exclaimed. His voice echoed through the cave.
Oh my!
Rarity said softly.
Sweetie Belle remained quiet,
which Rarity was beyond grateful for. Together, they continued to walk down a rocky path, illuminated by enormous torches. Their shadows danced along the wall, including Stefan's sobbing form.
Stefan, I am truly sorry. I promise, during negotiations, I will do everything I can to ensure your breeding grounds aren't handed over to the dragons.
Really?
Stefan asked, bringing out her handkerchief.
Absolutely,
Rarity said, holding her head high.
There must be another way to resolve this all. I just wish I knew what it was.
Oh, thank you,
Stefan said.
I knew we picked the right pony to help our cause.
Rarity smiled, though inside her stomach clenched. As an ambassador and negotiator, she wasn't meant to take sides, but Stephen clearly thought she was there to fight solely for their rights. Rarity took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of composure she had. She said too much. It was time to change subjects. But what to talk about?
Are dragons really that bad?
Sweetie Belle asked, taking advantage of the temporary silence.
I mean, we know a dragon, and he's pretty nice.
Rarity saw her sister glare. She couldn't see how bringing up Spike while watching through Sea Serpent's caves was a remotely good idea. Then again, Sweetie Belle wasn't known for thinking her idea through.
A nice dragon! Huh!
Stephen huffed.
Must be the only one of his kind.
Why don't you tell us some more about dragons?
Rarity said quickly, before another word could escape her sister's mouth.
I shall be negotiating with them soon, after all, and it would be helpful to know more about their temperaments and customs.
Stefan sniffed, handing the handkerchief back to Rarity. She didn't even bother touching it. She just quietly magicked it over her shoulder and hid it under a rock behind him as they walked.
Very well. Where would you like me to start?
Rarity's eyes opened slightly wider, and not just because the light continued to dim.
Oh my, this is it,
she realized. This was a genuine chance to learn more about Spike's kind, from a creature who clearly had more interaction with dragons than ponies ever did. It was the perfect opening.
Well,
She began carefully.
You mentioned your breeding grounds. Do dragons have an equivalent? Perhaps if they do, we could reason with them in regards to how they would feel if they were denied access as your kind may be.
Generous Rarity, are you suggesting we threaten the dragons?
Stefan gasped, splashing backwards in the water.
Oh goodness, no! Rarity said. No, just, that came out wrong. I wanted to know how dragons breed, and what their society is like, in regards to baby dragons growing up, and, well, oh, never mind that. It was probably a silly suggestion. Maybe you can, instead, let me still think about past dragon negotiations here.
Oh yes, I can certainly do that,
Stephen said. Rarity breathed a sigh of relief.
Phew, nice save there, dear.
There haven't been any,
Stephen said. Rarity's relief frozen up.
What exactly do you mean, there haven't been any?
Rarity asked. Stephen shrugged.
Every time we tried, negotiations end before they really can begin. Someone starts yelling, or it gets out of hand quite quickly.
That doesn't sound very productive,
Rarity observed.
Oh, it hasn't been.
Stephen sighed. Rarity's brain ran in circles.
How am I supposed to negotiate between two species I barely know anything about, when they can't even bring themselves to have a civilized discussion together?
They rounded one more passageway in the caves, as Stefan's expression went downcast, back to perky.
Anyhow, look! We've reached your chambers!
He pointed to a large, sapphire-crusted doorway, with swirling patterns, almost like the gems were riding on waves, just like the ones off the island shore. A large torch next to the doorway added to the effect. The sheer beauty of the doorway helped Rarity tuck away her fears about negotiations.
Amazing, she said. If the door is this magnificent, I can hardly wait to see what's inside.
Stephen beamed.
They're your chambers. You're more than welcome to go in. I'll leave you to them for a while. I'll be back to bring you both a meal, of course.
Stefan nodded to both Rarity and her sister.
Please, make yourselves comfortable in the meantime.
Thank you ever so much for your kindness,
Rarity said.
Yeah, thanks,
Sleepybell agreed. Stefan turned and swam back up the watery channel that flowed through the center of the massive cave system.
All right, let's check this room out,
Sleepybell said, squeaking out her words in a bit of her excitement. Rarity's horn glowed, giving them a bit of extra light so they could see the door handle properly. Sleepybell pushed the gigantic door open, and they entered a massive, fully lit chamber, clearly designed for much larger creatures than themselves. The swirly designs for the doorway continued throughout the chamber as a magnificent wave motif. Rarity's mouth dangled open in complete awe.
So cool,
Sleepybell said, trotting into the middle of the enormous room. A mass of soft blankets lined a pit in the middle of the room. It was quite different than a pony's sleeping setup would be, but it looked beyond comfortable.
Marvelous,
Rarity murmured. She watched further in, noting the beautiful emerald inlaid ceiling. Oddly, it did seem there were quite a few gaps. Maybe past visitors had sliced some gems for themselves. Sleepybell flopped onto the blanket pile, squirming into them and sighing.
I've never looked forward to bedtime so much,
She said.
Me neither,
Rarity replied in all honesty.
We need to thank Stephen and the court tomorrow for the wonderful arrangements.
Sleepybell leaned back, eyeing her sister.
Are you going to ask the court about baby dragons too?
Rarity's eyes flew open.
Sleepybell!
She exclaimed.
What in Equestria are you talking about? Oh, come on!
Sleepybell said, flipping around so she had her body fully wrapped in one of the blue blankets. Cut it out, Sleepybell! My Dominator can't take much more of this! I'm going to die of a heart attack!
You were trying to learn more about Spike, weren't you? On the case just now. I don't know what you mean.
Rarity pranced over to a large mirror at the side of the room, setting down her saddlebag.
Rarity.
Sleepybell's reflection in the mirror stared straight at her.
You only know one baby dragon. It's not hard to guess what you were trying to figure out.
Why, she's got some nerve!
So, what was I trying to figure out?
Rarity asked, turning the questions back on her sister. She gazed down her nose at the filling of the blanket pit.
Easy. You want to know when Spike will grow up big enough for you to...
Sleepybell began to make smooching noises, and all color drained from Rarity's already painful face.
Sleepybell!
Rarity exclaimed. She mounted a blanket over the filly's head and tried to the opposite side of the chambers.
You!
But she was too mortified to even formulate a proper response. Sleepybell, meanwhile, was giggling up a storm.
Ha! I knew it!
You know nothing! Rarity spun back to face her sister, who managed to dig herself out of the blanket Rarity had buried her in.
Oh, come on. Spike's got the biggest crush on you ever,
Sleepybell said.
And you certainly don't seem to mind. I mean, you two spend almost as much time together as I get to spend with you. Oh.
Her gleeful expression took a downward turn, and Rarity's eyebrows creased together.
Oh, sweetie Belle,
Rarity said, walking over to her sister.
I'm so sorry. Does that bother you? How much time I spend with Spike, that is, compared to my time with you?
Sleepybell looked up at her sister.
Maybe a little. Sometimes. But I know it's just because you two are totally in love.
She waggled her eyebrows and grinned. Rarity's cheeks burned, and she shoved her sister back into the blanket pile. You're dreaming! Sleepybell giggled resumed, earning a loud huff of annoyance from Rarity.
Spike's just a friend,
Rarity went on to explain.
a dear friend, yes, but nothing more. I enjoy his company because he makes me smile. Besides, even if...
Sleepybell popped out from out of the blankets.
Even if all heads?
She asked. Rarity went on an even deeper shade of red, and hated herself for it.
Even if nothing, mind your own business, young lady. Hey, if I'm going to have a dragon for a brother-in-law someday, I say that's completely my business.
Rarity teased back. And having an adorable niece that's purple with two little horns is named Crystal Clarity, and an adorable little nephew named Turquoise. Hey, Kilala's works are awesome! Sweetie Belle teased back. Rarity glanced around her nervously.
Sweetie Belle, what's what you say here?
She dropped her voice.
Dragons aren't exactly well loved in this kingdom, if you can't tell. Not well loved by the sea serpents, baby.
Sweetie Belle said, grinning even broader at her sister. Rarity took a deep breath. This was going to be a long night.
Mary, before we head to bed, can we do the sleep song?
I don't see why not.
Can I start?
Some idea.
I am not messing up the covers, sliding in so as not to wrinkle out the sheets, making sure the quilt stays nice and clean. Have you ever seen a bed so neat? I'm getting into bed. Sleep, sleep, sleep. Time to sleep now. It is night, and I need to sleep by this dark. I'm really tired. Time for sleep now. Tired, tired, tired. Sleep, sleep, sleep. I'm getting into bed.
I actually looked up the lyrics to that song and sang it for you. Don't say I ever do anything for you guys. Darn it, it's getting to be it can't be a pony feck unless I sing one song, is it? They just made it out of the ever-free forest in time. The sun finished setting, and night enveloped them, turning the meadow they reached into a field of rustling darkness. Applejack and Rainbow Dash set to work getting a small campfire going. Scootaloo and Applebloom helped. The crew decided there was no option but to bring the fillies, because, frankly, no pony could think of a way to make them stay behind that would ensure that they wouldn't go running off on their own again. Spike didn't want to be anywhere near Rainbow Dash after what she said earlier, so he opted to help Twilight and Fluttershy get the tent set up. Meanwhile, Pinkie Pie worked on putting dinner together. Initially, Spike hadn't liked the idea of stopping for the night, but now he had to admit he was getting pretty tired. He could probably count on one hand the number of hours of sleep he had gotten the night before. Spike usually preferred to use two hands and a foot to count his sleep hours. "You think they came through here, Twilight?" he asked, holding up a pole for Twilight to slide the canvas over. "Rarity and Sweetie Belle, or the gargoyles?" she asked in return. Spike moved to the next tent pole. "Well, I meant Rarity and Sweetie Belle, but both, I suppose."
"The gargoyles came through here,"
Fluttershy said quietly.
"I saw their claw marks in the trees at the edge of the forest."
Spike looked at her. "When?"
"Oh, I flew up to check as soon as we got out of there,"
she replied. Spike felt a little bad that he hadn't noticed her absence at all since they had left the forest. But then he stopped feeling bad when he remembered how scared she had been of the gargoyles, and the idea that a dragon could be nearby. "But she's not scared of me, now is she?" He awkwardly moved around to the side of the tent she was working on and held up a tent pole for her, trying not to let his annoyance with her show. "Oh, so that means the gargoyles were here," a thought struck him. He dropped the pole to the ground. Panic in his belly exploded like a phoenix bursting into flame. "But they aren't now, and neither are Rarity or Sweetie Belle. Do you think—" "No." Twilight cut him off. "Don't even go down that road, Spike." "But they're fine," Twilight said. "But how do you know?" Spike sat down on the grass, clutching at his chest. He could swear his heart was going to squeeze itself to death, with images of those awful creatures chasing after Rarity. "Because if she didn't reach Sir Supertinia today, the sea serpents were supposed to contact Princess Celestia. And don't you think the princess would have told us if she hadn't made it there?" Twilight reasoned. Spike kept breathing in and out deeply, trying to calm himself.
"It does sound like they're both okay, Spike,"
Fireside said, walking up next to him and putting a hoof on his shoulder. Spike closed his eyes, willing himself to relax. "You're no good to her all freaked out like this. Rarity needs you to be calm." "Yeah, He finally said. Yeah, you're both right. That makes sense. Twilight looked up at the sky.
I'd better take some time tonight to touch up my sky charts. I'll work on those scroll translations some more. She said, I'm afraid something big is coming, but I just don't know what.
Do you need my help? Spike asked.
Twilight shook her head. Not tonight, Spike. Stay with Fluttershy and help her finish setting up camp.
Spike nodded. Can do!
The unicorn walked off, magically unrolling several long scrolls of parchment, all while staring at the stars.
Spike bobbed back and forth on his feet next to Fluttershy, unsure what to say. He knew what he wanted to say to her. He wanted to ask her why she was afraid of dragons, and now gargoyles, but wasn't afraid of him. But Spike had no idea how to ask that without sounding like a jerk. So instead, he just said, At least it's not raining out tonight, huh?
Fluttershy nodded, flying up a little ways to secure the top of the tent.
Spike shuffled along, fitting the canvas tight. While he appreciated what Twilight had said to him earlier after the gargoyle attacks, he couldn't help but still feel pretty pathetic about the whole not being a scary enough dragon thing. He tried to tuck those feelings away, but they nibbled at his insides like a bunch of Fluttershy's rabbits. He and the Pegasus finished setting up camp in relative silence. They joined every pony else by the campfire to eat some honey biscuits Pinky had made. Spike had picked up a biscuit from the plate Pinky was offering around. He realized it was shaped like a four-leaf clover.
Frick! Pinky said brightly. Gotta keep those gargoyles away somehow!
Fluttershy, you know all the creatures biased. Applejack said from across the campfire. Any idea those beasts are going to come back tonight?
Fluttershy shook her head. Oh, I sincerely doubt that. They think there's a dragon with us, and they're clearly quite afraid of dragons.
Not that you'd be able to relate it to that at all, am I right? Ringo Dance poked at Fluttershy. Causing her to blush.
I'm just messing with you.
The blue Pegasus smiled. Every pony laughed. Even Fluttershy. But Spike couldn't bring himself to join in. The gargoyles think we have a dragon with us. You're not talking about me, are you? Spike phrased his question more like a statement and crossed his arms. The laughter stopped. Fluttershy, who sat next to him on the log, looked at him hesitantly.
What do you mean?
I mean, when you said the gargoyles think we have a dragon with us, you're not talking about me. You're talking about the fake dragon those two came up with. He tapped his son toward the cutie marker Crusaders, who were busy chowing down on their 6 honeyed biscuit. Fluttershy stammered. Of course she meant you, Twilight said quickly. Didn't you, Fluttershy?
Yes, of course,
Fluttershy said, nodding. Spike narrowed his eyes. You don't have to lie to me. Fluttershy didn't answer. No pony spoke. Instead, they all just exchanged glances. Clearly unable to take the silence any longer, Pinky burst out.
Hey, everyone! Look what I can do!
Pinky hiked on her leg, bouncing on one hoof, and spun around with streamers bursting from Celestia knows where. Pinky, Spike said. Stop. Thanks, but stop. Pinky collapsed on the log.
Sorry, Spike,
she said, pulling her streamers back together. Spike sighed, rubbing his temple with the claws. It's okay. I get it, every pony. He looked down on the campfire. You don't think of me as a dragon. Oh, Spike, of course we think you of as a dragon. Applejack said. No, you don't, Spike said, glaring through the firelight at the farm pony. You think of me as a baby dragon, like that's some entirely different species or something. But I thought you didn't want to be a real dragon, Rainbow Dash said. Remember when those dragons chased you after the migration?
And when you grew all ginormous after your birthday?
Pinky added. Yes, I know, Spike growled, standing up and clenching his fist. I don't ever want to be like those dragons. I don't want to be a mean, greedy monster. But I don't see why being a dragon always has to be a bad thing. I'm a real dragon. Am I a bad thing? Or do I not count as a dragon unless I'm something harmful and terrifying? Spike, of course you count as a real dragon, Twilight started.
Fluttershy isn't afraid of me! Spike spun at the yellow Pegasus. She's supposed to be afraid of dragons! She's even afraid of gargoyles!
Just because you're different, Spike.
Fluttershy tried to explain. Because I'm a baby? Because I'm useless? Because no one in their right mind would be afraid of tiny little Spike? Spike, stop it! Twilight demanded. You're overreacting! Really? Am I? Spike spun to face Twilight, who sat amidst a pile of scrolls. Then you tell me what I am! I make a lousy dragon! I can't pass for a pony, so what am I? He didn't even wait to answer before stomping off. He couldn't deal with any of them right now. All of them with nice, simple identities. Their cutie marks. Heck, they even got freaking magical necklaces confirming who they were. Spike kicked his way through the grass. It just wasn't fair. Life wasn't fair. He didn't understand. They didn't understand. I just want to protect them. Spike sank to his knees, eyes watering. I want to protect Rarity, but a baby dragon can't do any of that. The darkness made it impossible to see, much other than stars. He wasn't sure how long he lay there in the grass. But after some chunk of time passing, he had heard rustling. Oh, what is it, Twilight? He groaned, not even bothered to look up.
I like Twilight.
A small voice said.
It's us.
Spike sat up. He could just make out Apple Bloom and Scootaloo standing a little ways away. He blinked, hoping he didn't have any more tears on his face. You two, what do you want?
Just to talk,
Scootaloo said, sitting down.
Are you okay?
A cool breeze floated by them all. With just starlight, it was hard to read the expression on the cutie mark crusaders' faces. But based on their postures, it didn't seem like they were there to lecture him. Spike nodded. It's fine. The fillies looked at each other, then back at Spike.
Listen, I know you probably don't want to hear this from us.
Since, we're pretty young ponies.
You're trying to prove how you ain't a baby and all.
But we were thinking, you're trying to figure out who you are, and that's kind of our specialty. Scootaloo scratched darkly at her mane. Spike watched him carefully.
Man, we ain't comparing you to a blank flank or nothing.
Apple Bloom added quickly.
Just saying, if you ever want to talk about anything,
we'll be around. Scootaloo finished. Spike stared at him, unsure how to respond. Is that it? The elf nodded. Then he turned and headed back to camp. They were halfway there when Spike thought to shout after them. Thanks! The elf paused, looking back at him. Then they turned and continued on their way. After a while longer, gazing at the stars, Spike followed suit. They're right, actually. But growing up a dragon is different from growing up from a pony, he realized grimly. I'll never get a cutie mark. Guess I need to figure out what I'm meant for on my own. He then got back up to the camp. Every pony was asleep, except for Twilight, who was still going back and forth between watching the sky and reading her scrolls. Spike walked by her, trying to be quiet. He wasn't sure he wanted to face her, after his embarrassing outburst at dinner. But she noticed him. Spike, she said. Spike stopped walking, distances away from her tent. Yeah? I know who you are, Twilight said. Spike had one hand reached out to grab the tent flap, but he didn't grab it just yet. I know you think you make a lousy dragon. Don't think you can pass for a pony. Don't know where you fit. But I know who you are. And you'll see it someday too. Spike hesitated, then nodded. He wasn't sure Twilight could see his nod in the dark, but he didn't trust himself to say anything out loud. He grabbed the canvas flap, opened the tent door, and crawled inside for the night.